Now a little bit of time to talk about the Irish Oaks. The fat is here to chew. Plenty to consider. Curvey, a Ribblesdale winner. Pleskak, the second in the Ribblesdale. The likes of Qualify, of course, disappointed recently in the Irish Derby. And then we've got the likes of Jack Naylor and Together Forever, who haven't been seen since they had a little argument up the Epsom home straight, have they, Matt?
An argument up there. You could call it that. It was a start of something that could have actually turned very, very nasty, really.
Very nasty. As it happens, you know, like good gents, we take it away and we see the form and we bring it forward. But we'll start at the top of the tree before we get into those that had a muddling affair at Epsom. We'll start at the top of the tree, and Curvey's currently in there as we record and broadcast this out live here on the Tuesday evening. Curvey is a 9-4 shot.
Yeah, daughter to Galileo, Ribblesdale winner over, of course, this distance. A bit of more of a bumper cars, wasn't it, at Ascot, when Ryan Moore decided that there wasn't much of a gap. He forced the gap. I mean, in another country he'd have been disqualified, but that's another subject about our rules over here. I'm sure he got a holiday for that. But Curvey, yeah, made his way, and she stayed on strongly, and she was in command just at the finish, and the second horse was a length behind. But Pleskak, I just noticed, you know, from Curvey about, I don't know, half a furlong out, looked like Curvey had been a little bit, you know, 2-3 going clear. But this Pleskak really did make some ground in the closing stages.
And down there at 8-1, a horse that finished second to your 9-4 shot, that's value there, isn't it?
Yeah. Sorry. What?
No?
Sorry, I didn't.
We're talking about Pleskak.
Sorry, Pleskak. Sorry.
Second in the Ribblesdale.
Yeah, absolutely.
Currently, as I say, here on the Tuesday night, 8-1.
Yeah.
You've just mentioned Curvey, who's 9-4.
Yeah.
Is there that much difference in these two horses to suggest that what the market is?
No, absolutely not. I mean, Curvey wears the cheek pieces, and has done actually for the last four starts. But Curvey's form prior to that, over the 1.25 miles over in Ireland at the Curragh, of course, beat Giovanni Canaletto that day with Prince Gagarin over that 1.25 miles. This isn't really form to win this race. You know, I'm looking at the form thinking, well, on my ratings, I've got her 113. I've got horses in this race rated £10 before, so for that reason, it's certainly around the 5-2. I couldn't have her on my mind.
Okay, so it's certainly not going to be something that came out of the Ribblesdale then. Let's move on to the one in terms of the market that's sandwiched in between the two, and that's recent Munster Oaks winner Words. Yeah,
if we just come back to Pleskak, because I do think that there could be, you know, a chance that this horse could, if you pointed out, if you've got Curvey in at 5-2 and she's in at 7-1. I don't think she's going to win this race, but I think you've just highlighted there the fact of what on earth's going on here. Why have you got the 5-2 above the 7-1? Pleskak, of course, was in behind Diamonds and Rubies over 1.25 miles. I did watch that race back and thought, you know, would you really improve that much for 1.5 miles? Of course the horse did, because it went to Ascot, obviously, after that, to do that. Sorry, that's a mistake. Sorry, Royal Ascot. Since Royal Ascot, the horse has been at the Curragh since then, running the Pretty Polly stake. And there wasn't enough in that run for me. Maybe she was feeling that race for Ascot. It's got to be said, she's had, this will be her third race in a very short space of time. I couldn't have her, you know, for that reason alone.
Okay, yeah, obviously her name in Gaelic, the translation means explosive.
Really?
It does, yeah. We'll see whether that is the case on the day. A 7-1 shot, maybe represents a little bit of value, but isn't the apple in your eye for this race.
No.
Is it Words, as I say, the recent Group 3 Munster Oaks winner, around the 7-2 mark as we discussed.
Yeah, interesting. Winner of the Group 3, had the hood on for the first time. She could be very good. I watched her run back and just wondering if she might be a little bit inexperienced this time. I know Shemi Heffernan got off and said that she didn't mind the ground, the good firm ground, but I don't know. I think she wouldn't mind a bit of cut underground. She could just be the fly in the ointment here. I couldn't quite get at her, that piece of form. It was very interesting to see. I know it was a long way back at 8 lengths, but I mean, Raharan was in third, and that horse was last to 3 against Air Pilot when they run at Windsor, and I rate Air Pilot, and I remember looking at that and I was thinking, oh yeah, she might be interesting, but at the 7-2 I couldn't really get at her. She might just be a horse that I'd be having a good look at perhaps later in the season. This is only a third start. I mean, prior to that, her win at the Curragh, she did beat a horse there who went on to win a Group 2 and then came out that horse and didn't stay the mile. So perhaps we shouldn't poo-poo that form too much. But she, without a doubt, she's a very, very interesting runner. But at 7-2, there's not enough evidence for me to get involved.
Okay, and the handler, Aidan O'Brien, certainly has an absolute wealth of talent available. You know, plenty of bullets to fire at this one. He's withdrawn Diamonds and Rubies, which I know we'll all be disappointed about. We can have a word on that if you want. Obviously, it brings Qualify into the race as well as bring Qualify into the race. Qualify, a mention on that, but also the frown on your face would suggest that not happy about the removal of Diamonds and Rubies.
Well, I was just surprised. You know, I was surprised looking at this race. When I looked at it yesterday, I thought, oh, well, you know, they look the obvious horses. The ones perhaps we're talking about now are, you know, if you had Diamonds and Rubies, Legitissimo in this race, I mean, what sort of price would the likes of Words and that be?
Yeah.
You know, is that indicating to us that this is a bit of a, is this a weak Group 1? Is it not going to take much winning?
Well, if it's a weak Group 1, it shouldn't be, because there's the Group 1 Fillies Classic Oaks winner, Qualify, in there. Okay, recently disappointed in the Derby, but if it's not her, then you've got Jack Naylor, who I think was a good third in the Oaks as well. So there's some Group 1 form to be going here. It should be a true Group 1 race, shouldn't it?
If you're a forgiven type of person, then yes, the 9-1 about Qualify, you could argue, is value. I'm a firm believer that when you step into group level, you've got to be at your A game the time before. Not many horses will underperform. A Stone I had her underperform in Qualify. I know she was against the boys there, but this form was nowhere near her effort that she gave in the Oaks, beating Legitissimo. It must be pointed out she was a 50-1 shot that day. She just didn't show anything last time, and there's no obvious reason why.
That's what I mean. This is exactly the sort of form that almost puts people off racing, because they can't get their head round how they're meant to punt. And I must admit, it is an extremely confusing one where the horses come up and trot in at 50-1 at Epsom, not franked it in the Derby, as you say, to your ratings, run a Stone under par, and would be a surprise to see her bounce back. But the other one I wanted to mention is the Epsom Oaks placed horse Jack Naylor, Jessica Harrington's Jack Naylor. It's quite nice, I think, to see a horse that hasn't had a run since Epsom. They've almost wrapped her up in cotton wool. This must be a special filly. We've primed her purely for this, the Irish Oaks. Yeah,
I mean, a horse that, of course, beat Legitissimo as a 2-year-old last season, but I must say, it did slightly have her on my mind for the Oaks, and I watched it back a few times yesterday, and she finished 6th in that, and she looked like a blatant non-stayer in that race, and I'd have a big problem with her at the trip. Maybe mile and a quarter, I might be a bit more persuasive, but I just don't think she'll stay. And this track, 1.5 miles, you will need to stay.
Okay, now many viewers at home might be sitting there wondering whether we're ever going to actually get there to Value Raters selection. Well, I promise you, it's quite a way down the list at the moment. It's not Covert Love, is it? Hugo Palmer's that's just been entered there. Is it Speedy Boardings of James Fanshaw's?
No, not Speedy Bolding there. I mean, general price we've got at 16-1. Yorkshire Oaks entry. She won the course that mile and a quarter race, listed race at Newbury, beating Hot Sauce. And of course, a horse called Jasmine Blue was in third at Newbury. That horse has come out and disappointed over in, I think it was France, but too bad to be true. Their previous effort, of course, winning again the 1.25 miles at Goodwood, beating Journey. Journey came out, obviously, and won the maiden race at Newbury, and then, of course, didn't front the full. I don't think, unless there's going to be a massive improvement for the 1.5 miles, that's my problem. I think that horse is a 1.25 miles horse, and I think she falls under the bracket. If she's probably a Group 2, Group 3 horse, she'll be out of her depth here.
OK, it quite simply must be Aidan O'Brien's other runner in there that represents the value in this, the Irish Oaks, Together Forever, the horse that started the argument on Oaks Day at Epsom.
Yeah, and I say, you know, this isn't just a value selection for me. On my workings out, you know, this is the horse I would have in 5-2 favourite.
So you haven't just plucked out an each way chance, so you thought, well, Together Forever, that looks a big price.
Yeah, I'd have
this is. I mean, if nobody even shown you the market,
yeah,
this is the one who would sit at the top of the tree anyway.
Yeah, and that's one thing I always do. And anyone that's interested at home, don't, you know, if you're gonna read form, never look at the prices. Read the form, work it out yourself, then look at the prices, because you'll be surprised that you will see value. Sometimes if you see something's 5-2, it'd be the first horse you look at and you start finding all those positives for it. But honestly, this Together Forever, I had price 5-2, best price 14-1 this horse. Now, I'm not telling anyone tonight, well, as we're here live on a Tuesday, to run out and back it, because we don't know definitely that she's going to run. But if she does run, she's so interesting. As you said, she caused the problems in the Oaks. She was up with a pace. She travelled through the race really, really well. She just didn't handle the camber, and she was leaning, caused all that interference, and her race was over from there. But let's go back and...
As I say, for a couple of furlongs coming round Tattenham and exiting for the home straight Epsom, she looked arguably like the winner of the race.
She did, and she just struck my eye as being potentially the best in there. Now let's have a look at the race before, Tom. Now, this is really real strong bit of form. Second to Star of Seville over the extended 1.25 miles. Let me remind everyone at home, this horse
Giving
is
weight away, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, wasn't she?
And that horse has been out and franked that form over in France in a Group 1 level.
French Oaks.
Yeah. On my ratings, I went backwards and forwards. This horse has got lots of Group 1 entries all year round. I know Adrian O'Brien is... you know, he can enter horses wherever he likes.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have a Group 1 entry if you were in Ballydoyle, but
yeah. But this horse for me, it just, and let's not forget, when we look through this race, apart from what you've pointed out is qualifiers, obviously a classic winner, you're struggling to find Group 1 form. And don't forget, this horse won a Group 1 last season at Newmarket. The horse has definitely got the class. If she won the Fillies Mile, which is a Group 1 in status as a 2-year-old, all this horse seems to do is improve for steps up in trip. We don't know what would have happened if she wasn't hanging on the camber last time at 1.5 miles, but she stayed really well over that extended 1.2 miles. She'll get this trip on her head. If she lines up, you won't find better value for your money than the 14-1 about her.
That seems fine on terms of form. Just a couple of pointers to mention around the race. There is obviously a story starting to build. One of them being the angle of Covert Love. Hugo Palmer, his connections have stumped up a big bit of money to supplement the horse. I would like your opinion on how you feel for these late supplements. You know, they don't just throw a horse in there for a ton of money, you know, for a laugh. Hugo Palmer's horses are in good nick at the moment, and Covert Love. And the other point, if you could, is Ryan Moore, of course. Gary said that Father Gary said likely to be off the track possibly for a month with this collar neck injury that occurred at Newmarket. Now, who takes the rides on these O'Brien runners? Are we looking at Joseph? You know, he can really only do 8:13. Or are we looking at Colm O'Donoghue, Shamey Heffernan, or are there others that might step in for a ride?
Okay, to take your first point, Covert Love, he was supplemented. I think the simple reason is if they probably looked at this race as we've discussed it tonight and thought, what's in there?
Yeah.
We might just be able to bag a bit of place money here. Of course, won that listed race at
Hoppings,
yeah. Should definitely stay. That was 1.25 miles, and then she just ground it out in the closing stages. At the time, it was an evening meeting. And I'm always a little dubious about evening meeting listed races, because I do think that most of the quality does come out in the daytime, not the evening, unless it's a big race like Sandown. I remember a few horses disappointed in that race, one being Solar Magic, who had another disappointing start. And I remember scratching my head afterwards, and I remember actually the person I stood next to, and he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, that form won't work out," because I just knew there was a few disappointments. But I don't think she'll be winning this, but I can understand why you would stump up the money, because they may be thinking, well, actually, you know, we're as good as half these field on what we've done. But, you know, a listed winner, to Group 1.
And as a general note from my side, just Hugo Palmer's just in good form at the moment. So keep an eye on his runs. And the other one, not so much who do you think will ride these horses, should I say? How do you play the idea of jockey bookings? You know, if Joseph O'Brien is sitting on, say, Qualify, or no, Shamie Heffernan will probably ride. You know, are you going to go 1, 2, 3? If Joseph's on it, should that be your bet, or are you just?
I don't know how quite, you know, any jockey that Aidan O'Brien employs, you know, he can ride, they'd be at the top of the game. Obviously, it's not ideal. Ryan obviously rides most of the first string and had that, you know, I've had that experience with them. But listen, at home, Joseph, you know, he would have been riding all these horses. I suppose the arrangement might turn out to be who's doing the work on them at home, you know, who's doing the fast bits of work. I don't know. But one thing you can assure that these jockeys, Ryan Moore is Ryan Moore, you know, and he's probably, you know, he's probably a pound or two above those other ones that we've mentioned. But even so, they're good jockeys, aren't they? And
I suppose that's out of your hands as well, really. You know,
absolutely.
You've looked at the form, and this is what you've come up with together forever as big as 16 to 1 at the moment. As you say, wait until the day.
Wait until
at least
final
wait until the
decks.
declaration. Yeah.
Final decks, because and weather-wise, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter, I don't think.
No, and a bit of rain forecast, in fact, might help during the week. What we'll do is just quickly round up those selections going forward with the likes of Gibeon that we're taking out from Newmarket, and we're taking out Space Age from Ascot, and from York we're saying John Smith's Cup, bang on all of that form.
You know, that form. I mean, and I suppose people to narrow me down, you know, it's Gibeon. You know, that's the horse, mile and a half. Help yourself.
Lovely. Gibeon is the one Value Raters class act this week on the review side. On the preview side, the class act at the moment looks like Together Forever's in there with a big chance at big odds of 16 to 1 for the Irish Oaks. Before we leave you, worth mentioning Value Raters' service that he offers away from this television show. You're of course getting all of these tips for free at the moment, which is very nice, but what's the service you're offering up, Value Rater?
Yeah, we've got a service. The actual service itself's been going. It's been going about a year and a half at the moment. But no, we've got a new website was launched at the beginning of June. It's a bit more singing and dancing, and of course there's lots of it made. All the podcasts from Audio Boom are always up on there. Obviously the highlights from this show is always on there. But more importantly, there is a service which is very, very cheap. It's only £20 a month, and for your money you will receive a minimum of free value selections. It is always of top class racing, and they're different selections to obviously what we put up on the show and also on Audio Boom. And for the people, you know, are serious minded investors, you know, because it's all about level staking plan. And when I put a selection up, it's not me just necessarily saying, well, this horse is 16s and it should be 10s. What it's all about, the service, is every horse I put up must have a realistic chance on my ratings and own form analysis of being at least placed, but more importantly, have a chance of winning that race.
Okay, and for example, after three months of being in receipt of the Value Rater service, can I, you know, request a breakdown of whether it's been a plus or minus month? Or
we've got a newsletter on the website, and that's free for all. So if you're just thinking, well, I don't want to be signing up for these tips, but you're interested to know the progression of Value Rater and what's happening with the show, it's a growing brand with the TV show, Audio Boom podcast, and we'll update you with what we've been winning or what we've been losing. Last month was a very, very strong month, and also up on your screen now, we'd like you to be part of the show. We are getting a few emails and tweets. It's much obliged. Any questions or racing topics you might have for either me or Tom, just Twitter at Value Rater or email me at value.rater@outlook.com. And next week, of course, we will be looking, not next week, is it next week, Glorious Goodwood?
Next week will be the King George.
King George.
Yeah.
Next week, King George. So if you've got any fancy for the King George, I do like it when people do some working out. So send them in, and if the best ones, we'll read out.
Yeah, that's it. No, we've got another couple of weeks, so you've got to worry about ordering in your Panama hat, Mr. Mitter. Now, it is time to leave you, I'm afraid, but I'll leave you on this note. If the rain does fall at the Curragh during the week this week, look out for Mecca's Angel in the Sapphire Stakes. I'm sure a lot of punters will, and you might not get a big price, but this horse has been waiting to run for weeks. If it rains, it will surely get its chance. Now, we will see you next week at 7:30 here on Tip TV Sport. We'll be live again for Value Raters Class Act, previewing the King George.